Hey guys, it's Tom at Cerulean Bay, and we are back. We've got another great show, which is going to be full of great ideas and inspiration for you. And as you know, we are all about taking that idea of escaping to an exotic tropical island and losing yourself in that tranquility and peacefulness as much as you can at home. And there are just tons of ways that you can do that if you really just stop for a few minutes and really think about things and make a list of what it is you like and what can you do with those ideas to bring the tropics literally back home, make them come to life for you. And today we are going to be talking about an unlikely place in your home for this, but it's actually the bathroom. So believe it or not, the bathroom is an ideal place to consider making a tropical retreat there because it is usually the first stop in the morning after you wake up, and it's the last stop before you go to bed at night. So why not literally start your day and then end your day with an awesome tropical experience? Really, by enhancing this space in your home with things like tropical plants, whether they're real or not, and other rainforest like features, you can really embrace the look and feel of the tropics in more than one way. Sometimes it's just a few touches that are all that's needed to create that atmosphere, that environment that really evokes the beauty of the South Pacific or places like Bali. And whether it's a small bathroom or a large one, these places can really make a great statement room. I mean, the phrase, I have to go to the bathroom, can literally take on a whole new meaning. It can literally mean I have to get away for a while and just be quiet, and you can then hide yourself away in your own awesome little tropical hideaway. And with careful planning, you can really create a bit of a paradise sanctuary there where you can just relax, again, depending on space available. But even if you've got a really small bathroom, we're going to get into that about how you can just create that visual effect so that every time you or your guests are there, it's just that breath of the tropics. It's just that real feeling of awesomeness. So to kick things off, we are going to get into some tips about materials, textures, color palettes, lighting fixtures, decor, accents, things like this that can really bring in those elements of the tropics. One thing that we need to keep in mind when it comes to the bathroom, though, is that it obviously needs to remain functional, and you need to be able to easily get to the different parts of the bathroom, and whether it's just to the sink or the medicine cabinet or, floor space is always a consideration in there. So when decorating in tropical style, sometimes that means bringing in other things in addition to plants, but it can just be small accent pieces or small little furnishings, little things like tables or just little accent pieces of some sort. In the bathroom, obviously, you have to maintain floor space and, you don't want to make things uncomfortable or where you're having to step over and around different things. So just keep that in mind. But by bringing in nature and the elements of nature, you can really create that truly relaxed, peaceful setting without leaving your home. And this can be achieved by bringing in things like a lot of natural light when possible. If you have any kind of natural light in your bathroom, there are ways to maximize that and to take advantage of it. If it happens to be a bathroom where there are no windows and it's in an interior space, we'll talk about that as well. And then, as I mentioned, this is where you get into things like tropical plants. Then there's the natural materials. Things with textures work really well in bathrooms. This is where you're looking at rocks and stonework, really textured tiles, different kinds of woods that can take on the humidity, things like teak, different rugs and accents that are made from woven grasses and fibers that can also stand up to high humidity and moisture. Just remember, no wool in the bathroom. It doesn't work. We'll also look at color palettes, the ones that just reflect the natural tropical settings. And then there's the organizational aspect of it. This is where you have your bath products. If you've got a linen closet or places to store linens and accessories, you want to make sure that everything is stored properly. And if possible, that it even adds to the look. When you're getting into bath products, sometimes they come in a really cool packaging. Linens, towels, things like this can be in really cool colors or maybe have some tropical motifs on those. You can also get into tropical aromas. A lot of people use bathroom fresheners and things like that. You can really take a little bit of extra time and just consider, okay, you want to have something that smells really nice in there. What is it in? Can it be in a cool container? Maybe you can get some kind of cool little reed diffuser or something where essential oils are dispersed. There's just a lot of fixtures and things that you can use to make your bathroom smell nice that actually look really cool too. And then again, as I mentioned, uncluttered floor spaces, very, very important. So when you're talking about your bathroom, this is where obviously you've got your walls in there and you want to make sure that you can really use the wall space that you have, maximize it. Most people, when they have bathrooms, they're on the smaller to kind of medium size, unless you're getting into a very large master bath setting where some bathrooms in the master bedroom are just simply huge. And then you do have a lot more to work with in there. But when you're getting into the guest bathrooms, the hall bathrooms, the little half baths, which are just a sink and a toilet, those you're going to have very limited wall space, but you can really maximize those walls. We like to really suggest that people look at these walls and try to go one step further. Because it's a small space, you're not looking at a ton of work, you're not looking at a ton of money. This is where you can look at things like texturing your walls instead of just using wallpapers and, basic paints, which of course you can do. There's, lots of great colors and there's wallpapers. We'll touch on these things a bit later. But when you look at textured walls, there's so much visual interest in there. And one easy way to create a tropical space is by putting texture on the wall of a bathroom. One inexpensive way to do this is just get a big bucket of joint compound or drywall mud. And all the big home improvement stores have this. They are kind of heavy, so be careful when you're carrying those things around. But they're very common and it has a consistency to like a peanut butter. So there's so much that you can do with it. There's so many different techniques that you can use to apply this to the walls. You can have those light plastic gloves on your hand and you literally just get a scoop of that and you start smearing it on the wall. And when you get used to the texture of it, you can see what you can do. And the glove itself will kind of add texture as you're wiping and smearing it on the walls. Or you can use things like putty knives. There's a really cool textured roller. We actually have an affiliate link to it in the blog post that I will share the link with for this show. But it is a roller, like it operates like a paint roller, but it's got the texture on there where you roll it in the mud and then you're putting this on the wall and you will come out with a very light or heavy, depending on how you do it, kind of a stucco feel. And what's really cool about it is it'll vary as you move around the wall. Some areas will be lighter and heavier than others, which give you a lot of great visual interest. If there's any areas which end up being a little too heavy, this is where you get like a spackling knife or a putty knife, and then you very lightly just kind of tap on it to knock down those little raised areas on the wall to kind of not totally smooth it out. But when you experiment with it a little bit, you'll see what I mean. And that's the other cool thing with this drywall mud. You can experiment with it. And if you don't like it, smear it out, smooth it out, and then start over before it dries. But yeah, just a great way to add texture to bathrooms is by using this joint compound on the wall. Once you're done and it's dried, you can paint over it. If you get a good quality paint and primer blend, then you'll save yourself the extra step of having to apply a primer on its own. But yeah, you can go ahead and just apply a really cool paint color on it. We love the way that this comes out when you do drywall mud. We've done our whole living room in it. We've done our breakfast area in it, just kind of in a nice smeared kind of old world kind of style. And one other quick note about this too is that even if after it's dried before you paint, if you find that you've gone a little too light with it, maybe you want a little bit more texture, simply apply more. Or if after drying you find that it's a little too heavy, you can do what they call wet sanding, which is where you just get an old rag or towel and it's damp. It's not dripping wet, but squeeze out that water, make it damp, and then very lightly just wipe the area down a few times and you'll start to feel it. You'll start to see it, how it slowly starts to smooth out and disappear. You don't want to go too much so you don't completely remove your effect. But yeah, then once you get the look to where you want, that's when then you are ready to paint and the possibilities are endless with that. So, with that little side note in mind, let's go ahead and move into some of the other design elements that you can use. And these are where you can really get creative as well, depending on the space that you have, depending on your budget. But we're going to throw out some ideas here where, even if at first they don't sound like they would be applicable to your space, or maybe it's sounding too high end or too expensive, again, look for the inspiration in them. If you saw something and it wasn't feasible for your bathroom, what could you do instead to kind of create that same kind of look? There's always another way to try and create a look. So just keep that in mind. And speaking of budgets, we do feel that when it comes to the bathroom, kind of similarly to the kitchen, it is worth it a little bit if you can afford it to just spend a little extra and indulge in some really cool fixtures or something, because this will be the only place in the house that you have it. So it's not like you're replicating this many times throughout your whole house. It's just in this one spot. So when it comes to cool things like sink fixtures, bath and shower fixtures, if you're fortunate enough to have a walk-in shower where you've got room to put in the body jets or maybe that rainfall shower head, those are really cool things that you can put in, and they are worth the investment in our opinion, because then they last. They add resale value to your house if you should ever decide that you need to sell. So, yeah, consider those kinds of fixtures. How can you just take things up a level, take things up a notch, and just add that bit of luxury, which we feel at the end of the day you deserve. People work so hard for their money and they work so hard to have nice things in their home. For most people, they're never found there because they're always outside working. They're at the office and then they're running errands. And the time that you actually have at home isn't a lot. You're coming home, you're having dinner, you're going to bed. So when you do have those moments where you can really take some time, spend some time in that little retreat of yours that you create, it's worth it. You're really going to be glad that you invested in some really, really cool fixtures. And outside of the shower and tubs, this is where, if you have space, you can consider things like a small waterfall or a fountain. It can be freestanding on the floor, maybe something tabletop. When you're getting into your countertops, if you're going to be investing in maybe changing any of these out, consider natural stone, natural woods. Wood vanities are really cool. Maybe getting a nice teak bench in there. And then look at your lighting. We always think restrooms should have more of a softer, diffused lighting rather than something that's just bright. You can keep that task lighting relegated to maybe something that's on a separate switch next to the mirror. Or if you've got softer lighting overhead and then you've got lighting installed above your mirrors, maybe those can be a little more bright, a little more functional. But overall, you should have the option of creating a soft, diffused look. Again, on dimmers, we recommend putting everything on dimmers where possible because they really help to create the mood. So just some overall tips there about what to consider. If you are looking at doing a full remodel, well, then the options, your range is just expanded. And this is where we recommend big walk-in showers. Freestanding tubs are the trend right now. And although we don't really like to follow trends too much, freestanding tubs, you can do a lot creativity wise in creating a really cool scene around them. They let you do more on the floor around them. And again, resale value. They're a big thing. Freestanding tubs, people love them. Of course, every tropical space is going to need its plants. And for those of you who really know our show, we talk about plants in every single episode, I think. We just love them. So you can never have too many plants in our view. But to achieve that real tranquility and serenity, you just have to return to nature. You just got to bring in those natural elements. And for the bathroom, it is an awesome place for real plants if you have natural light, because most plants will do very well in the humidity. It's just free humidity to them. You create that ambience of the rainforests and they'll be happy. But if you don't have any natural light, if it is an interior space, an interior room again, good quality fake plants work just as well. If you keep up with those and you keep them clean, dusting regularly and just making sure that they're not forgotten and as you add any other decor pieces or just bath products or anything where they might not be standing on their own, make sure that those plants are standing out. Good quality fake ones are not cheap, so you can really get some high quality, lifelike looking pieces in there. You can hang them from the ceiling. They can be placed on the floor if you've got the floor space. They can sit on countertops and shelves and windowsills. If you've got a big enough shower, some plants you can even put in the shower itself if you've got natural light. Why not? One resource that we actually came across as we were doing our research for this show is that if your bathroom has a window, and so that's obviously an exterior wall, depending on what's on the other side of that wall, if you've got maybe some unused patio space or it's on the side of a house and you've got enough room to create a small enclosed garden, which is open air, what some people have done is they've taken the window out and they've actually put in a full length sliding door. And you can get good quality sliding doors that can withstand being in a wet environment like a shower, but it literally opens up into this enclosed garden. So, weather permitting, you can open up that sliding door. You've got your outdoor garden space in there, maybe even with a little bistro set and a chair. Again, your own private little retreat that's only accessible through the bathroom. There are some great ideas out there where people, in addition to their indoor shower, they put an outdoor shower as well, maybe with some great lava rocks or some other boulders and stonework and just a lot of plants. That is something that will really transport you to the tropics, because if you've been fortunate enough to visit a really cool exotic resort, something far away in Fiji or one of these places, most of these resorts have outdoor showers. They are outdoor, rock enclosed, very private, lots of plants. You can literally be out there in the rain taking a shower. It's just so cool. If you have the option of doing this at your home, why not? It's something that a lot of people don't think of. And again, you create your own little space. Works great for master bathrooms. Again, if you have the space, you can put in that sliding door, a little bit of space accessible outside to create just a small little area, and you can have your own tropical retreat outside. As I mentioned, you can even do a little bistro set out there. You can hang out, have a fountain. It's just a really cool option for people who have the space and the budget for something like that. Some plants that we would recommend that love warm and humid environments. This is where you get into the pathos plants, different kinds of palms. There's the mother-in-law's tongue or snake plant. There's aloe vera actually holds up very well with a lot of moisture. You can get into different bamboos. There's the spider plants, rubber plants. So yeah, really do a bit of research, consider those plants that can take on a lot of water, and then you just fertilize them as you need to, prune them as you need to, keep them looking great. And yeah, that's one way that you could really have an awesome tropical escape right at home. Some other things to consider here when you're getting into woods, teak is probably the best because it is the most water resistant. It's got natural oils in it. It's a very dense, a very heavy hardwood, but it's very resistant to water. So that's a great wood to use in high moisture areas like the bathroom. You can also look at rattan as long as it's not actually getting wet, but rattan works very well indoors. And these are used very commonly when they're mixed in with different stonework and with plants. And you can just create kind of that whole little natural scene. If you're going to be getting into any of the rugs, as we mentioned, look at the woven mats, look at natural fibers, look at jutes and sisals, things made from hemp fiber. These are very, very good for high moisture areas, and they're just going to be a lot less likely to mildew. So yeah, consider natural fibers for your rugs. If you are thinking of adding some color, we think that because most bathrooms, as we said, are on the smaller to mid-sized range, that it is helpful to maybe keep your base colors in the neutrals, like in the whites or the beiges or the light creams, and then you can use the bright pops of color to accentuate the space. You know, that's where you can get into your yellows and oranges and reds, purples, really nice blues and greens. If you do happen to have a lot of natural light in there, then you can use darker colors as your base colors and then do the opposite and use the neutrals to bring things to life. So just remember, lighter colors do expand a room and darker ones will shrink it. But that is something to consider is how much color do you want? If you are bringing in things like natural stonework on the walls or stone countertops, you've got maybe neutral flooring, and then you've got some plants in there. Just consider the colors before you go overboard with them because it's easy to do in a small space. And you don't want to overpower what you've already got. If you're going to have beautiful stone tile on the walls, or you've got that great vanity, that great sink going on, maybe some beautiful tile work in the shower area, and you've got your plants, you want those things to do the talking. You want those to really speak to you every time you go in there. And then just keep any bright accent colors kind of in the background. They will pop in a certain corner or maybe on a little space on a wall, or you've got a cool piece on the floor. But you don't want to create too much visual interest in there because then visually it is not relaxing and it's not peaceful. And that's what your tropical space in your bathroom should be, is just a very peaceful place to go and take a break. You know, when you consider the word restroom, I've always wondered why they call it that, but you can literally go in there and just mentally rest for a bit. So keep that in mind. Moving on here, when you get into accessories, and again, these are things that look really, really cool, but also have a functional use. In the bathroom, the options are just endless. This is where you can put in really cool vessel sinks. Those are the ones that are mounted on top of the countertop. You can get natural rock, natural boulders that are carved out into really cool shapes. You can have fixtures that literally are mounted on the wall. Here, you're obviously getting into a bit of expense because you might have to do a bit of replumbing behind there, but you can create a really cool effect by having faucets or spigots and things like that, which come directly out of the wall. You're looking at light fixtures, maybe, as we mentioned, the overhead one above the mirror, or you've got some side sconces, which are really, really cool. If you do have windows there, this is where you can consider maybe some bamboo or faux wood window blinds. You want to be really careful with real wood blinds in bathrooms because real wood, when they are used in window coverings, they're very thin and they will warp in the humidity. So for blinds, we do recommend good quality bamboo ones or fake wood ones. And the fake wood ones are actually cheaper, so they're a good deal. But other accessories, this is where you get into shelving and dividers. You can get into baskets if you have place. You know, you've got the little vanity stool. Maybe you've got an actual chair with a little side table in there. As I mentioned, a bistro set. Just really take some time, especially when it comes to the bathroom, and consider what will work. I mean, typically, the amount of space that you have to work with is going to be very limited. Why not just make it pop? Why not maximize it and just really go all out to the extent that it's possible to just create that wow factor when you're there? And then from there, once you've got these elements in place, that's where you're looking at artwork. Any matching accents, just some added decor pieces as space allows, depending on the amount of wall space that you have. Again, some really cool artwork, things that are very colorful, things that are very textural. So when considering artwork, again, just take some time, be thoughtful about it, and you don't want to buy anything that's too big, anything that will overpower the space, because a particular piece of wall art that might work anywhere else in the house can easily overpower in the bathroom just because of the size of the space. So you want to be careful about that. Let's get into just a couple styling ideas here, just to give you some ideas about the different kinds of tropical styles that you can use and whether you want to go kind of on the bold and busy look or maybe the clean, sleek, minimalist look. So we've got a couple ideas about those that I'd like to share with you here. And so one thing that you should do is just decide which way you like to go with this. If your general decor style is one of minimalism, then we recommend carrying with that theme in any kind of bathroom redos that you do as well. Because if you try to step out new and suddenly go bold and busy, chances are it's not going to work. and vice versa. If you like to have just kind of a heavy use of texture and items in your home, and then you try and go sleek and minimal in the bathroom, and you've really got everything set up around that, just know that you might find yourself wanting to add to the look, and then suddenly things look out of whack, or different pieces maybe that you want to add aren't going with those paint colors, or maybe some shelving that you chose, or that vanity that's over on the sink. So we do really recommend focusing on what it is you like design style wise, in terms of the number of things, literally the actual number of decor pieces that you have kind of per room, and what you might like to see in your bathroom. Because again, bathrooms are smaller. They're usually some of the smallest rooms in your house. So you want to make sure that you get those right the first time, and you're not going back and having to maybe spend extra money or return things that just simply aren't working out. But to get into a couple design styles here, if you want to kind of go with that heavy jungle tropical look, you can do this whether your bathroom is very small. This is one place where big and bold leaf print patterns and things like that will actually work in a small bathroom. And then you've got maybe a little bit of shelving space in there with some big, bold decor pieces. That actually works. And you can really use, as I said, big leaf print wallpaper or wall art, just real heavy textural decor pieces. That'll work out really well in a small bathroom. Or on the other hand, you can just go very sleek, very minimal. You want your countertop or your vanity to do the talking. Maybe the shower space that you have in there is done in a really nice tile. You've got very minimal artwork on the walls, and you just want to keep it clean like that, but all done in some tropical colors. And just with a hint of the tropics there in your artwork and decor, that works very well too. You can also go vintage inspired if you want something more old world. There's a lot of really cool artwork and decor pieces out there that are either real vintage or they have that vintage look. If you are lucky enough to have a freestanding tub, this is where you could look into getting a Claude tub, one of those real Victorian looking pieces. And then with that, you get like the dark wood side tables or plant stands, or any kind of accent piece like that that maybe looks like something it's out of the 1800s. And you obviously get a lot of plants in there because the Victorian look, they had a lot of the ferns and the spider plants and hanging plants. Or if you've got a tall plant stand, these would be plants that would just hang over and start to grow towards the ground, maybe some actual vines that are in pots. That creates a really cool kind of jungle look in there. And then you just get really any other vintage decor that would work in a bathroom, and it's got that same look. You can still get into the woven baskets, vintage ceramics, vintage pottery works really well. So there's some really cool things you can do to bring in that vintage look. If you do want to bring in a look that is on the minimalist contemporary side and you want to focus on greenery, this is where you can go with the real plants if you have the natural light, or the fake ones. This is where we would bring in an important tip though, and not just for bathrooms, but pretty much anywhere in the house. If you're going to use things like boxwood panels or any kind of greenery panels that you can order on Amazon, and we've actually got some in our affiliate pages. We have a resource page on our website where you can go in, and we've got some really cool boxwood panels there, which are sold on Amazon. But they are a beautiful way to do your walls. Just know that because it is an artificial material, it is going to smell when you unwrap it. And just like a lot of fake plants that have not been allowed to air out, or they're not exposed in the store where you're buying them from, if you buy these and these are prepackaged, you're going to want to either put them outside in a protected area or maybe out in the garage, and you're going to want to let them air out, because these, for instance, these faux boxwood panels, they've got a really strong kind of chemically smell in there, which you don't want that in your indoor space. And when you bring that into a bathroom, that's a small confined space. Hopefully, you've got some good ventilation in there where you're going to want to bring that out if you are unpacking it and putting it right up. But yeah, we do recommend airing them outside, maybe leaving them out there for a day in a protected space, just so you don't get that real chemically smell in there. And the one cool thing about fake greenery too is that they're just easy to clean. You put the brush attachment on your vacuum and you can just gently vacuum them periodically to keep them dust free. And we do recommend that happening more often than not in the bathroom because it's such a high humidity, moisture area that dust will cling to stuff. You'll find it's not as easy to dust many times in a bathroom because when that dust is there and then it gets wet from the steam of a hot shower or whatever, it just starts to stick and it's just harder to clean. So we do recommend any greenery that you have in your bathroom, even with real plants, those should be cleaned more often as well. So they stay healthy and green. Then moving on from there, we've actually got a really cool tip for you if you do have a freestanding tub. The really cool thing with freestanding tubs is you have more floor space around them, which is typically not an area where you would walk that often. So you can put cool things there. That's where some floor plants can go. One great thing that people do is they'll actually use really nice decorative rock or river rock up against the tub and around it. And you can even spread it out again into areas where you don't walk to really just have this tub sitting on a bed of beautiful rocks. It just creates such a nice tropical feel. You get the sense that there's water nearby, maybe from a river or from a waterfall. So if you go like with those blue gray river rocks, something like that, we've got some cool imagery in our blog post at ceruleanbay.com. So be sure to check that out because yeah, freestanding tubs are really, really cool, and there's a lot you can do with them floor space wise if they are in a position where you don't have to walk around them and you can just use the floor space to create a really cool scene. And with River Rock, the thing that's really cool with those is those are heavy enough that you can vacuum them as well. With the same brush attachment on your vacuum cleaner, they're large enough that they won't get sucked up, so you can help keep those things clean in there. But we thought that would be a great tip to share with you. Another tip for your bathrooms is take advantage of any unique architectural details. Like any other room in your house, if you've got some cool niches or an alcove or like an angle to your ceiling or something that looks really cool, you can use lighting to enhance that. There's sconces with uplighting, or if you've got floor space, you can use some uplighting in your bathroom. And that's where you can just do interesting things with texture on the walls and with the paint. So unique architectural details are cool. Don't discount those. Really take advantage of some cool shapes and angles and things that most people wouldn't have in their homes. That's one great way to truly create a unique look is to work with the things that you know are unique to your house. So run with that. Look for some architectural details if you happen to have those. Some other great tips are if you just don't want to spend a lot of money and you want to go real simple, just paint an accent wall. If you have a bathroom that's largely just one color, you can take a main wall or a primary wall in there, do it in a nice tropical color, hang a large piece of tropical wall art on there, or maybe some kind of fabric wall hanging, a tapestry type thing. Again, make sure that these are made from materials that can withstand the humidity of a bathroom. But that's a great idea is just to create a simple accent wall, bring in a couple little tropical plants, maybe a cool tropical rug in there. And if that's all you need to take you to your tropical happy space, there you go. Definitely not a lot of work, not a big budget buster there. You can go as simple or as luxurious as you want. You can get creative with your lighting. Look for opportunities where you can use pieces like mirrors, which maybe are backlit and these are wired into the walls so that you can operate them with a switch. You can really get inventive and creative when you look at something and say, what else could I possibly do with this? And then, of course, online, there's a million ideas as well. When you get onto Pinterest, they've got beautiful ideas for tropical bathrooms. We really love the stone sinks, as I've mentioned before, or you get into really cool vessel sinks that are made of glass. A lot of amazing artistry out there in those vessel bowls and just something in a cool tropical blue or green. You can really bring in the jungle vibes with that. Maybe bring in some animal prints as well on some kind of rug or in your wall art. Animal prints are kind of cool when you want to bring in that kind of rainforest jungle inspired look. So take a look at animal prints. And then just as you're doing your research, if there is a particular place that you want to go, maybe you've never been to, maybe it is the South Pacific. Maybe it's to the Maldives in the Indian Ocean, or maybe it's just to Hawaii or even South Florida. Look up online some local designers. Maybe there's some interior designers that have a really cool website or any kind of imagery that is specific to that area. That's where you're really going to get some great ideas too. Usually you will find artists and designers who stay on trend a little bit with what's going on locally in the local culture scene. So you will be able to pick up some really cool ideas that you wouldn't find, for example, here in the US on your own. They're through a US based artist or a US based company. There's obviously a ton of inspiration here in the States, but when you go to a locally owned business, they're going to have imagery. They'll have work from local artists who maybe, if you can find the artwork, maybe it's even available for sale. You can check through the artist's website or maybe through Facebook, but look for local inspiration when you can, because there is a ton of it out there as well, but it's unique and specific to an area. And you can draw from that and help to create a really cool, unique look that's going to be authentic, and it's going to be something that no one else has. Because us here at Cerulean Bay, that's what we are all about, is authenticity. So we really recommend looking at a particular country that you would want to visit and then finding artists there, designers, checking out their websites, their Facebook pages. Yeah, you're going to find some really cool stuff. So I think that's where we will leave it for this week. We invite you to visit us over on Cerulean Bay. Again, that's where you're going to find the blog posts that I mentioned. I'll have the links in the show notes here. And we have our online store, which has some cool little pieces. We just actually got some really neat lovers statues in from Fiji. Very, very cool. So I'll get those pictures done and up there as well. But yeah, we encourage you to check out our blog posts on there, visit our affiliate marketing pages. We've got a lot of great products from Amazon. We're introducing some from Tommy Bahama as well. Just really cool things. And we do get a small commission from those if you should choose to purchase. And that is absolutely at no cost to you, just so you know. So we hope you've enjoyed this episode about tropical bathrooms. With them being kind of an unlikely room in the house, they actually are very deserving of some tropical treatment. So we wish you an awesome week until our next show. We're working on our next YouTube video as well, so we will have that posted for you shortly. But until then, we wish you tons of tropical inspiration, lots of health and happiness, and just really an awesome week. Take care. Bye-bye.